Broadcasting to you live from the Orion Spiral Arm of the Milky Way Galaxy. That was a little shout out to Mike and his Toxically Masculine Tuesday show. From the Orion Spiral Arm of the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, 3 undisclosed locations. My name's Brian Engelman. That's Mike Bara. That's Jim Mitchell. And this is the Strictly Football Show here on the Unhappy Hour, powered by the New American Media. Thank you so much for being a part of the festivities.
We need an applause soundbite. We need an applause soundbite for that exact moment when you say "Welcome to Strictly Football." We do.
Yeah, when I used to do college radio at Bowling Green State University, back where Urban Meyer was the head coach when I first got there, we used to have all of the sound effects. We had a soundboard. I did the 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. show, so we'd stumble in from the bars at 3 a.m. on Friday nights. And we would do a show into Saturday morning. But we had all these sound effects. We'd always do the applause and do the boos and all that stuff. So, yeah, maybe we should do we have a sound effects panel on here, Mike?
I don't know. We should have one here, right? We should look this up on Restream, but yeah, we should.
Yeah, I feel like that's a thing. And if it's not, we need to create it. I know we do have playoffs as a clip that we use all the time. So we got to find a way to add some applause and witty banter. But yeah, thanks for joining us. This is the prime time to be a football fan, everybody. This is what you live for.
Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
The playoffs.
Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
No. Yes. I just hope we can win a game.
All right.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining me today. Let's jump right into
the first post-inaugural edition of Strictly Football.
It is, and I'm back. I was out there in D.C., and I did get to see President Trump speak in front of the hockey arena. So we got in probably with 10 minutes to spare, waited in line for 7 hours, could not feel my toes or fingers. But we got in there with 10 minutes to spare, and then we got to see President Trump address everybody. The Village people came out, got to see him doing the dance on stage. And then, then the next day we were out at the jail, and we were there for 2 days. Check out the videos on the New American Media on YouTube and Rumble. Hit subscribe, please. We talked with Stuart Rhodes from the Oath Keepers. We've had him on the show over the years a couple of times and got to talk to him on the, right around the time he was released. And then we also talked with Ashley Babbitt's mother and a whole bunch of people that were released from Philadelphia, from the DC Gulag. And so all those videos are over there on the TNAM sites. Please check those out. But yeah, it's our first post-inaugural show, Mike. How do you feel in this? Would you call this a new world, sir? A new world?
Like a new world so far. I'm just waiting for a certain president to make a visit to Reno, Nevada and finish a few things off I've been waiting on. So, I'm pretty optimistic right now. So, yes.
I'd say I'm pretty optimistic as well. Jim, are you optimistic? Are you feeling good?
I am optimistic, but boy, I'll tell you what, some of the questions he's been fielding, especially, can those reporters get any stupider?
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Now remember, this is Strictly Football.
All right, let's get back to football.
We should back off of this.
Mike, I need to bring you on to an agree to disagree one of these days, by the way. Open invitation. Whenever it makes sense, I'd love to do a cross-pollinization because I am like the utility infielder for Toxically Masculine Tuesday when somebody goes down or is out of time.
Right. If we could have 5 people that like to talk on one show, I'd have you on. But I think 4 is the max.
It makes perfect sense. No apologies needed. All right. Speaking of no apologies needed, I just want to say this about that. I just want to have a moment to speak directly to Ohio State football head coach Ryan Day. Mr. Day, you may not know me. My name's Brian. I've been a lifelong Buckeye fan, a lot of misery. In fact, Ohio State failures have led me to create my show called the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. The Buckeyes have probably fielded the best team in college football, let's conservatively say 10 times in my lifetime, with only 2 championships to show for it. A lot of failure on the big stage, a lot of failure late in the season with goofy losses. I called for your firing if you could not win a national championship this year. It's been 5 years since we beat that team up north. Of course, the 1 year was COVID. They didn't play, but 4 losses in a row, no national championships to show for these stacked NFL-ready rosters. And I was calling for your replacement. You proved yourself. Every game that you competed in the playoffs, You won the game pseudo convincingly. You had to go through a gauntlet of 4 teams to get the job done, and you did it. And I couldn't be much more proud than I am right now of your accomplishment. Thank you so much. You've earned it. You've earned everybody's respect. And this was a comeback victory. This was, it was brutal when we lost by 1 point to Oregon early in the season, the unanimous #1 team all year until we rocked them in the playoffs. And it was brutal when we lost to that team up north when our offensive coordinator forgot how to throw the ball deep to Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka for some reason. But you know what? I love the new format of the 12-team playoff, and it worked out fantastic. And there has never been a college football team that has needed to go through a gauntlet like we saw in order to prove that they are truly the undisputed champion in college football. Buckeyes did that by beating Notre Dame. Fun fact, I was stuck at the Washington, D.C. gulag all day filming and interviewing people. And 1 block up and just over was the only bar right there. That's where I watch the game. It is a Notre Dame Irish pub. I think it's called Patty's, something like that. And it has the Play Like a Champion today on the wall. 95% of the people in there were fighting Irish. It was me and 2 other Buckeye fans, and I loved every moment of it. So I just want to take that quick victory lap as we get started. Mike, what was your thoughts on the college football championship and the whole process and the 12-team playoff and what you learned about the Buckeyes and all of that jazz?
I'm sorry, the 12-team what?
Playoffs.
What's that?
Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me?
Playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?
So we can win a game.
Playoffs? It never gets old. It never gets old.
I like the 12-team playoffs format. I think that they should do the seeding a little differently so that we have more competitive games in the first round would be nice. Have like bad teams play the bad team, the teams at the back end. But, look, this shows you how screwed up the NCAA has been for years. I want to go back to the 1985 season when you had University of Washington, which had like 50 million guys that were going to play in the NFL on it. And they gave the championship to BYU because BYU was undefeated. And the best team they played the entire year was Michigan in not the Rose Bowl. It was the Peanut Bowl or something, some gay bowl. And by the way, Donald Trump signed an executive order making it okay to call people gay and retarded again. So that's just so you know that. And Michigan was a 6-5 team. They beat them on, like the last play of the game, 21-20 or something. And they called them the national championships. And if those 2 teams had played, Washington would have won 68-6. It was ridiculous. So, but Washington lost 1 game, I believe, to UCLA or something. So, again, that was an insane system. And then they tried the 14 playoff, but the 14 playoff basically always excluded a 2-loss team, unless, of course, they were the SEC. Then they let them in.
Well, let me pause there on 2 points that you just made. Before we go too far afield, before there was a 4-team playoff, there was a 2-team playoff, and the Buckeyes won that as well. Because there was the bowl championship series, but you're talking about a day and age. People maybe that are 20 years old and they don't remember. This was just
they used to just
vote a national champion based on what some writers in New York voted on.
And again,
they didn't actually have to battle and earn it.
And that's where again the University of Washington in 1991 had one of the greatest teams in college football history. They had like 4 first-round picks or 5 first-round picks on one side of the ball and 2 on the other. And Mark Brunell was on that team. Great. I mean, Steve Ettman was the #1 overall pick. Injuries robbed him of a great career he would have had anyway. A lot of injustices over the years, and then they had the 2-team playoff and then a 4-team playoff. But if you were a 2-loss team in the 14 playoff, you didn't get in, period. You did not get in unless maybe you played in the SEC.
And remember, there were a lot of good 1-loss teams that were kept out of the conversation.
So a year ago, Ohio State would not have been in the playoff, and yet they were clearly the best team in college football. And I think that's the part of it that we're now going to be able to have, I think, a legitimate, real champion.
Yeah.
And the win against Oregon was signature. Oregon was probably the next best team, and you guys avenged your earlier loss. Mm-hmm. And and won the game. And I think the other takeaway from it is Will Howard is going to be a first-round pick in April. I'm going to tell you that right now. I would really love for the Seahawks to take him at 18. They definitely need a quarterback, and I think Howard just checks all the boxes that I look at anyway. And but I think he's probably, by the time the evaluation process gets done, I think he's a top 10 quarterback. So I don't think
so too. I was calling on it, and I don't think that he's going to go past the Steelers. But of course, the Steelers made the playoffs, so they'll be picking just after you that just missed it.
Right.
Jim, what were your thoughts on the national championship festivities this year? The whole playoff round robin tournament. I mean, this gave the Boise States and the Arizona. There were so many fringe teams. It's like
playoffs. Don't talk about
playoffs.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's evergreen, Mike.
You said the word. So
I did. And I have a hard time saying the word without saying it, like playoffs. Talk about playoffs? You kidding me? I just hope we can win a game. But then this gives us an opportunity to really, you don't get lucky and you don't get kept out on the fringe because of one early loss or you went undefeated in a shit conference. It really lets all of the major players into the party, and it's a battle royal. It sifts its way out. I loved it, obviously, because we came out on top, but I liked it in general, despite the fact that we came out on top. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it lends a lot more legitimacy to college football. I mean, in the past, it's like when Mike said, there was, a two-team playoff, and who was to determine which two college teams, went to the championship? The sports writers, the Associated Press. I mean, these were the people that were actually voting, and collectively, what did they actually know about the game of football? I mean, it's a lot more legitimate, and I think it's a lot. It lends a lot more credence, as far as people who like to bet football.
Yeah,
that you have 12 teams instead of 2 teams or 4 teams that a bunch of suits just picked, to play the game.
Well, yeah, and Jim, I even agree. I remember the most egregious is probably 1994, where Florida State was 13-1, Notre Dame was 13-1. They couldn't play each other because there was no national championship game because they had commitments to other bowls. So Notre Dame couldn't be in, Florida State couldn't be in the bowl game that Notre Dame was in. And the 13-1, guess whose Florida State's loss was to? It was to Notre Dame. So they played head-to-head. They beat Notre Dame, and the AP, the East Coast fucking sports writers, voted Florida State the national champions because it was Bobby Bowden's turn. I mean, that it's like it's immoral what they used to do. So
by the way, one point of clarification: in 2014 was when the 4-team playoff began, and Ohio State won that. That was the Ezekiel Elliott year.
Right, but I was just gonna say it's just so much more fair now to actually have this as opposed to bullshit like that. I mean, how can you both have the exact same record? You both won your bowl games. The 2 teams played each other, and you give the championship to the team that lost the head-to-head game. It's absolute. So that's when I think that's when it should have all stopped. But I'm glad it's legitimate now.
Yeah, nothing screamed like the good old boy network, than the way they used to do it. And that was one reason. That was the main reason why I never really got into betting college football. And everybody, the NCAA was all worried about, where's the Tostitos Bowl going to be, and where's the Bop Shawat Bowl or whatever they wanted to call it. Well,
I would watch that bowl. What's a Bop Shawat?
There are still bowl games. You insert the bowl games into the playoffs.
Thank you. Yeah, the same thing year after year after year, and it's like, oh well, they're going to lose. It's going to lose the panache. It's going to lose the esteem of the Rose Bowl if it doesn't matter. I said, you rotate it. Rose Bowl's the championship game in this year. Then it's the Orange Bowl the next year, and then it's the Tostito Fiesta Bowl. Like, just rotate it. It's not rocket science. This one's the first round game, second, third. Just rotate. It always makes all of those bowl games relevant.
It always irritated the hell out of me. They tried to make the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl into one of the major bowls when it never was. They made it a major bowl. I'm like, it's not. It's the Fiesta Bowl, right? It's El Paso or wherever it was. That's the Sun Bowl. But it was one of those.
I think it's Arizona because Buckeye fans showed out there big time.
Yeah, and I mean that really irritated me. And my favorite, I don't understand why they never had the Playtex deodorant tampons Cotton Bowl. Myself, I thought that would be a great sponsor, and it never happened.
Mike, did you ever watch Basketball with Trey Parker and Matt Stone?
Absolute classic. Yeah.
Oh God, that was good. No, but you're right, Jim. This, instead of leaving it up to beat writers in Tupelo, Mississippi, and a whole bunch of East Coast bias and just random dealings, they really had to. This was it reminded me of a world. I know wrestling is fake, but having a battle royal, having a Royal Rumble. You dump 30 people in there, and it's just may the strongest person win. Good luck. You didn't accidentally become a champion this year. There was no wow, they got hot during one game. They got lucky. It's you had to beat some badass teams, and that took endurance. That took a lot of focus. This is a big change from how things used to be.
Yeah.
Right. And wasn't Ohio State seeded number 8 originally?
7 or 8, I think. Yeah.
Well, just that statement right there, the fact that they were seeded number 8 lends legitimacy to the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, under the old version, would they have even sniffed it? No. No, they would not have gotten in. They would have not had the opportunity to prove themselves.
And don't forget that this is a super interesting year. If you look at the final rankings, now you could say at the end of the season where they were ranked. You could say when they played during the season where they ranked, or at the end of the season what the final rankings were. The Buckeyes had to beat the number 1 Oregon Ducks. They had to. I'm trying to go off the top of my head. Texas. They had to beat. We beat number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, number 6. It was ridiculous who we had to battle and defeat in order to come out on this. Nobody's ever had a tougher road to the championship. And like I said in the beginning, I just couldn't be any more proud of a team. Nobody's had more pressure on them either. The Buckeyes had all the pressure in the world. I mean, we were legitimately calling for Coach Day to be replaced because he couldn't win the big games. And man, oh man, did he show up. But when you see that we beat all those top teams, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, that's never been done. Maybe it'll happen again, but this was truly a historic season. We're in the middle of it. It's done now, and we're still processing, but this was unreal. And you think back to when the Buckeyes shit the bed against that team up north. They came and tried planting their flag, doing the Baker Mayfield in the middle of the Buckeye Stadium.
Yeah.
Jack Sawyer came in, ripped that thing away, and a brawl broke out. And at the time, it was grow up. Why do you care about the flag? You know what? If you win the game, they're not planting the flag. Okay. But they had a closed door meeting after that, and the Buckeyes were furious. They were pissed. They were embarrassed. And if you think of the iconic play of the year from the Buckeyes, maybe it's Jack Sawyer stripping the ball from Quinn Ewers, former Buckeye quarterback on Texas, and taking it back 92 yards for a touchdown to seal that game right before the championship week. And it's that energy can carry over. This was like a Disney football season. They could make a movie out of this. It had all of the moments. And what do you say? Mike was just talking about how the Ohio State quarterback, Will Howard, is probably going to be a first-round pick now. They were saying, oh, yeah, maybe teams will get him in the 3rd or 4th round. He won the championship. Where do you think he's going to go, Jim? How high do you have as a ceiling on him? He's 6'4", 225, and he did not make mistakes in the playoffs. He had 4 games to get flustered. He didn't.
Yeah, well, who's got the second pick this year? Is it?
My Cleveland Browns.
The Browns. Well, I think the Browns.
I don't know if it's going to go that high, but you never know.
He's bigger. He's bigger than Shedeur Sanders. He's bigger than Cam Ward. None of those clowns have won a national championship. And if you want to talk LeBron versus Jordan, they go, well, LeBron only had 4 championships. Jordan had 6. He's clearly the GOAT. Some people say all that matters is championships, and Will Howard has 1. The other 2 options, they don't. So
yeah, Jordan has 6, all of which came after Magic Johnson and Larry Bird both turned 30 and got injured. So yeah. But yeah, Jim, to your point, yeah. I mean, the thing I like about Howard, and when I look at quarterbacks, I place a lot higher value on if they have played in big games and how they have played in those big games. And that's why I'm a lot bigger on Quinn Ewers, for instance, than a lot of people are, because he's played in seriously big games. And look, let me just tell you, when you got Geno Smith for a quarterback and you see him shrink in the big moments against the big teams, it's not about your arm. It's not about your accuracy. It's about what's in here and what's in here with a quarterback and how you play in the big moments, because at some point it's going to be on your shoulders to win the game for your team. And if you can't do it, you're not worth investing in at that position. So,
right.
Anyway.
And I would encourage you, if you haven't seen it, there was a series, I think it was on Barstool, but it was Coach Gruden talking with former Buckeye head coach Jim Tressel. And he rattled off a list of 3 things that he needs his quarterback to do. I'm forgetting one of them. One of them was you need to go out and make big plays. But then the other one was you cannot make these big mistakes either.
Yeah.
I forget what the third one was, but it's a really interesting chat. Like when you really get to pick the brain of one of these all-time great head coaches in college football, they know what's up. And yeah, big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games.
That's right.
And then we saw it from Jack Sawyer. We saw it from Jeremiah Smith. Man, I don't know how many Buckeyes are going to get drafted, but good Lord, this feels like the 33rd NFL team. It's like we're an expansion NFL team that's going to go take over Europe or something. So anyway, I'm just super excited. Did either of you have any final thoughts on anything about the Irish or the season or next year, or we're pretty much wrapped up on?
Yeah, I see we've picked up Treebeard again from.
Treebeard's here. Yeah, I think my favorite thing is somebody tweeted out, isn't it amazing how the SEC suddenly stopped winning national championships when it became legal for all the other teams to pay their players? We peeped that again from last week, and it was a good job. It's good to see some diversity brought back to college football.
Absolutely, I concur. All right, so I guess maybe now we should pivot to the NFL.
Yeah.
Where do we want to start here? There were 4 games last week. We've whittled it down to 4 teams now.
I think we should start congratulating Mike. I mean, Mike hit his first 3-teamer.
Yeah.
Oh.
$400. Well, minus my hedge, minus the $100 I just spent on this week, because I've now become a degenerate gambler. But yeah,
don't have buyer's remorse on the hedge, Mike. Hedge very important.
It was important. So this is really an interesting thing, because I did win. I picked the Chiefs to win, but not beat the spread. I just picked them straight up, and then I parlayed that with getting the points for the Bills at home against the Ravens. I got points. Anytime you can get points and you're the Bills. And then the other game was the who did I have, Jim? I had the
Eagles Rams.
You had the Rams.
And the Rams.
You won that game by half a point.
Yeah, and I did, and I believe the Rams were going to win that game, and I believe if it had not snowed, they would have won that game, because it took away a lot of their speed advantage on the outside. And it's
a good thing Saquon didn't go down and take a knee and slide like before. Like he actually took it to the house. Saquon's been criticized for going down a couple times. It's cost a lot of bettors.
I was very happy about Saquon going down. So you got that, and it was an interesting weekend. And of course, the star that is Jaden Daniels. And again, I didn't know he had this in him. I knew he was athletically talented, but when you look at a guy, I haven't seen a rookie with that much. They used to call it savvy, poise, and savvy. Game awareness, knowing your situation, knowing not just your down and distance, but what you cannot, I can't throw a pick here. I can't fumble. I can't take a sack. If the pressure's on, I have to get rid of it, or I have to run for it. The guy is the best rookie quarterback I think I've ever seen. And that's after CJ Stroud, who I thought last year was the best rookie quarterback I'd ever seen. And the 2 best since Russell Wilson, who is a phenomenal rookie quarterback. And I think the greatness that's in Jaden Daniels was clear for everybody to see. And again, it's here and here that seems to make winners. And that guy can single-handedly tear your team apart, even more so than Lamar or Josh Allen. I mean, the ceiling on this guy is just off the scale. It really is off the scale.
Well, yeah, Mike, that's kind of understated. Do you know that in the current Super Bowl era, if the the Redskins happen to win this game, he'll be the first rookie to play in the Super Bowl.
Oh my God, no, I didn't know that. But that,
really?
He will be the first rookie quarterback to play in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's impressive.
That is.
Let me show you something here. You're talking about the poise and where it's coming from. Let me show you this. Hold on, full screen. Let me show you this clip because there might be a reason. And as the singularity approaches, maybe we're going to be seeing more of this. Here, let me try. There, that works good. All right, let's play this. This is about Jaden Daniels. Maybe you'll understand why he's performing so well. Whoop, why didn't play start? Here we go.
Is the key to Jaden Daniels' success virtual reality training? Daniels is able to get an extra 250 reps a week because the Commanders invested in Cognize, a German VR company that's revolutionizing football training. Here's how it works. Washington loads in thousands of plays into a VR headset that Daniels puts on, and then he runs through realistic plays in realistic stadiums to train his brain for games without risking injury. So if the Commanders' next opponent is a blitz-heavy defense, they can program in that defensive scheme for Daniels to get reps against. And because it's VR, coaches can actually increase the speed of defenders coming at Jaden, so he's able to read and react faster than needed in real life. Thanks to VR, Jaden said he's able to read defenses 80% faster than he used to, so it's no surprise the same technology is used for military training, Formula One racers, and pilots. Jaden first started using this technology back in 2023 at LSU, and that was the same year he won the Heisman Trophy. With Daniels having a historic rookie season so far, should other NFL teams be investing in VR training? So
I don't know if you had ever heard that story, but when I noticed that, I went, "Oh shit, the future's here."
Yeah, I think people are gonna realize that they better get in on this. And by the way, Michael Penix should have won the Heisman Trophy the year Jaden Daniels did. He had much better stats, but I believe he's going to be a great player. But yeah, this is something now that I think everybody's going to have to do. Except, of course, the Seahawks won't do it because they don't need to because they have Geno Smith, so they're not going to do the VR training. But everybody else is going to invest heavily in his technology. And if these young quarterback prospects are smart, man, they will start using it too, the same way Jaden did.
I think Kyler Murray will be probably one of the first ones on board with this, with his video game prowess.
Yeah.
Well, if you think back, remember what was the guy's name?
Russell.
Yeah, Marcus Russell.
Russell, worst draft pick.
Marcus Russell. The famous story about him was that the coaches kind of quickly realized, kind of how I feel like Deshaun Watson showed up and never read the playbook. He looked lost out there, and he has for 3 years, and a total waste of investment. That's why you don't fully guarantee things up front. But they said, I don't think you're really. They started getting a hunch. He's not reading the playbook, and he's not watching the game tape. So they're giving him game tapes. So eventually they gave him 3 game tapes for the upcoming opponent. I think it was 3 upcoming opponent, blank tapes. And they asked him, "Are you watching the tape?" "Oh yeah, coach. Yeah, I watched all the tapes."
All about what was on the tapes, and they were
blank. And he never put them in, so he never noticed. And when he responded with the lie, they looked at each other and went, "Dude, this guy ain't it. He's not taking his job seriously."
And I remember
real good Al Davis pick there.
Yeah, I remember Al Davis when he fired Lane Kiffin. Well, he didn't want to draft Jamarcus Russell. We had to get rid of him. He was so stupid. And I'm like, oh, Al, the crypt keeper, you should retire, Al. And Jesus.
Yeah.
The crypt
Al Davis and his PowerPoint presentation on why he let Kiffin go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's jump into the games. I mean, we were talking about the Commanders. We could just start there. I mean, who in the world picked that? I went 2-2 last week with my picks. We'll get to those a little later, but I definitely thought that this was kind of the Lions' season. This isn't the first time kind of the number 1 team in the league ended up shitting the bed when it counted. Like I said, probably 10 Buckeye teams were the best in the nation that failed to get the job done over the years. And look, this wasn't even close. The Commanders just rocked them. Mike, what did you take away from that Commanders victory, somewhat convincing over the Lions?
Well, the greatness of Jaden Daniels is the first thing that popped out, and it's interesting because his elusiveness is so good. It's like for some reason my bro played a 2012 Seahawks game, Russell Wilson's rookie year against the Bears, the last half of the fourth quarter in the overtime, big game that they won in 2012, and This was Russell Wilson at 22 years old. And like Jaden Daniels, they're very similar in the sense that they were calm at all times, made the right reads, made the right plays. But it's that they both had a level of elusiveness that it was hard to even for the defenders to even find them, much less hit them and knock them down. And that ability to get away from people was phenomenal for Russ back in the day, and it's phenomenal now for Jaden Daniels. And he made all the big plays he needed to make. But look, what happened here is that the Lions' injuries on defense killed them. They had the best team. They didn't win. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. It's a shame because I hate it when that happens. I hate it, especially for the fans of those other teams, when you know you got the best team. Right. And you don't win it. That really sucks. That's happened to the Seahawks a couple of times. And you find a way not to win it. But just all the injuries on defense just caught up on the Lions. They just met a team that they couldn't outscore because Jaden Daniels was so good, because they were so depleted. And then they lost their starting corner. I forget the guy's name. Had a dislocated elbow or something. He was their best cover guy, and the defense only got worse there. They lost two other guys during the game that couldn't finish the game. And it just got worse and worse for them. And a lot of people like to rip on Jared Goff. I don't. I think he's great. He had the interceptions. The interceptions were when they were behind and he was trying to force things, and he had to force things downfield when he shouldn't have. The fumble, again, you get your elbow, you get your arm hit from behind when you're looking downfield. That's not on the quarterback. So, I feel bad for Goff, because I really thought he came a long way, and I really wanted him to redeem himself. So all the emotional stories on my end were favoring the Lions, but I knew the Commanders were dangerous. I knew Jaden Daniels could beat him on his own, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, Jim, did you see this coming based on the information you had last week with the trends and projections that we had? I just didn't. I did not have it coming. I definitely lost this one when I did the pick 'em.
Yeah, this game killed my four-teamer. I had the Lions on the money line. I wasn't going to lay the 9.5 or the 9, but
and that's a 14-point win plus the 9. That's wild.
I had them along with Kansas City on the money line also, and no, I didn't see this coming at all. And the Lions are still in the 4-team club. There's 4 teams in the National Football League that have never been to the Super Bowl, and they're one.
Cleveland Browns are another. Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat though. I think I mentioned it to Blake on Agree to Disagree a couple minutes ago, but having gone to Washington D.C. for the inauguration and just to kind of get interviews with people and put some pieces together. It was neat because I was in D.C. right when the Lions were beaten by the District of Columbia, by the Commanders, by the Redskins. Like, they were excited. There were Commanders hats and Commanders gloves and Commanders shirts, and they were riding high. So it's kind of like I'm always going to remember that trip to D.C. because the Buckeyes won a title and because the Commanders upset the number 1 Lions in the NFC. It was pretty wild. I didn't see it coming, wasn't anticipating it. We'll get into the next NFC team here, but I wonder how far they could actually go, the Washington Commanders. I don't know, but regardless, they're going to be facing the Philadelphia Eagles, improving to 14-3. Well, I guess that doesn't include the playoffs there, but yeah, the Eagles won. They beat the Rams by 5 points. It was a close-ish game in the snow. I love games in the snow, and here we are. Jalen Hurts threw 15-20 for 128 yards, no touchdown.
Not on the screen. We're not on the screen. We're still in the Commanders game.
Oh, that's what happened. Here we go. Share this tab. Thank you. It took me to another tab instead of staying.
Well, you've got a chat distracting you in your lap.
Appreciate it. So, not a lot of action from Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position with his arm. He was 15-20, but man, it's a Saquon Barkley show. Mike, what did you take away from? I think your initial thoughts were that if there was no snow, you think the Rams would have won. But look, that's what they get for not having a better regular season record and losing home field advantage, right? That's why the regular season matters.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. I thought that the Rams could beat them without, I knew Saquon would probably have a big day because Saquon is the best running back in the NFL right now, and you're not going to stop him. I thought the physical beating the Eagles took against the Packers was going to cost them a little bit more, but it really didn't in the end. And I think the snow just kind of screwed everything up. And the Eagles, with their ground game and with Jalen Hurts and the tush push and Saquon, they're built for the snow, and the Rams were not. And that was the difference. Having said that, hey, you beat the spread. That's all I care about, really. There is talk that Matthew Stafford will retire. I hope he does not, because I do believe the Rams, with another good draft, and they had a great draft this year. They got Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, two terrific defensive linemen. They need to shore up that run defense, get another defensive tackle or two. There's a lot of great ones in this draft. I don't think Matthew Stafford retires. I think they have a chance to get back to the Super Bowl next year. So I expect him to come back. And, the Eagles, I'm not a believer. I think their offense is limited, and we'll talk about who's going to win the game, but I'm just not a big Eagles believer. I'm just not. So, and this game didn't do anything to assuage that and make me feel better about them. I'd like to see anybody but the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, but I don't have a lot of faith in the Eagles at this point. But good for them. They won. They're in the NFC Championship. That's an accomplishment all by itself.
Right. And remember, Matt Stafford, it's not just about this. Am I remembering the game right? Did they say he had a cracked rib?
Yes, two cracked ribs, actually. So
that makes a difference. Even if they pump you full of I can't feel shit meds, you can still feel it. Something ain't right, and it ain't right. But he's had other injuries over the years, north of the neck. And it was rumored a couple years ago, I think, when Baker Mayfield went over there. And he filled in, and he did that historic no timeouts, march down the field after he learned the playbook in 30 hours, and got that come from behind victory with the Rams. That was because Stafford was out with something that they were then saying. That was 3 years ago, because Baker's been on the Bucks for 2, and then he was before that. They said he might have retired at the end of that season. So it's not like Stafford's recently only thinking about retiring. He's had an accumulation of injuries that are starting to pile up, and it's not like he's struggling for cash. He's going to be okay in retirement. Jim, what did you take away with this one? I mean, Eagles got it done. I love watching games in the snow. I hope we can find a way to keep snow a part of the playoff system. I'm actually pretty tired of every Super Bowl being indoors. I would love to see some of it outdoors. But what were your thoughts?
I think the last Super Bowl they had outdoors in the elements was the one at the Meadowlands, was it not?
Yeah,
and that actually turned out fine. I mean, it was
it 1990? Was that Giants? And
it was a while ago. I mean, Goodell just figured, okay, let's try this. We're in a population area. Let's give New York, New Jersey, a Super Bowl, and they did, and they got lucky with the weather. The weather was not bad. It wasn't like when Manning, won his first Super Bowl down in Miami. I mean, it was torrential rain, down there. But, you have an outdoor Super Bowl, you're rolling the dice.
Yeah.
And by the way, one quick point, Jim. According to Grok, I just did a search there. The last outdoor Super Bowl was Super Bowl. God, I got to learn how to read these Roman numerals. I've never learned how. It took place in 2014, MetLife Stadium. Yeah. And that was the only time the Super Bowl was held in a cold weather city without a domed or retractable roof stadium.
Right. And that's Meadowlands, right?
Yeah. That was the Meadowlands game.
MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. What I took from this game, again, talking about that half point, telling you guys how important that half point is.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the difference between Mike, making a couple of hundo and losing a hundo,
Yeah.
That half point, very important. But that outstanding stat in that game was Stafford going into that game was 1-8 straight up in the rain and the snow.
Yeah, 1-9. Yeah.
when it started, I had to forecast, Philly to get 5 inches and I knew it was going to start snowing in the second quarter. But now he's 1-9 in the rain and the snow. But
I mean,
he's still a hell of a
Saquon,
quarterback. I don't see him retiring.
Yeah, and we're gonna find out. We're all just kind of guessing at this point. Maybe the quintessential moment, other than the Super Bowl win, of course. If you remember that one, I don't know if you've ever seen the clip, but there's like a 7 or 8 minute extended clip from NFL Films his rookie year when he came. He's from Georgia, right? And he came in with the Lions, and it was against the Cleveland Browns, and he got hit. He was running around. He threw the ball, and he got hit by the biggest defensive lineman you'll ever see.
Yeah.
And he's on the ground going, oh.
I remember that game.
And in this NFL Films clip, they just keep it rolling. They don't stop it. It's all one. He gets off the field, and they go out to the side. He can't breathe. He's hurt. They bring in their backup. All of a sudden, so like this is a couple seconds left to go, like maybe the final play of the game. They're trailing by a couple. This is your only chance to win. But because he was injured, he can't play the next play. And I think the Lions were out of timeout, so they couldn't stop the clock and do a reset or whatever. The Browns call the stupidest timeout in timeout history. They give him time to catch his breath. He goes, huh? They called a timeout. I'm good, coach. Put me in. I'm fine. I can throw it. And they're like, no. He goes, I'm in. Fuck it. And he just goes in. They give him one last play. He does like this little duck arm throw thing. And he limps off the field. He can't. He's trying to do these gimpy left-handed, high fives. He can't take any pain. It was an incredible moment. Like when I think Matt Stafford, I think of the toughness and the grit that he showed in that moment, beating my Cleveland Browns. And it would be good for the game if he could stay, but obviously injuries, Father Time's undefeated. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but we will stay tuned and see. Any final thoughts on Eagles Rams? You guys good?
No, I'm good.
All right. Yeah. Let's bounce over to the AFC in the this one was unfortunate. I can't stand the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm so sick of the favorable refereeing.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. I don't know why they seem to be forcing this dynasty down our throats. I don't want it. But the Houston Texans, they hung tight. This was a close game. Kansas City outscored Houston 10-2 in the final quarter there. They ended up winning by 9 points, so it didn't quite matter. But, yeah, Chiefs advance. Houston Texans go home. Mike, did you have any takeaways? Did you learn anything about the Texans in this game? And then, of course, did the Chiefs earn this, or was there another laundry list of questionable calls?
There were a ton of questionable calls, and even Mark Schlereth, who is he's a Bronco.
I think Mike paused there on Mark Schlereth being a Bronco.
He was going to say Bronco
when you're
honk, I guess.
Your feed stalled for a second. You said even Mark Schlereth, who was a Bronco
homie,
there you go.
Was calling it out on Twitter, saying this is ridiculous. These calls are asinine. That's not roughing the passer, and only the Chiefs get these calls and nobody else does, and it's nonsense. And so I'm hoping that the pressure builds on that a little bit, so they either don't make these calls this weekend, or they actually stop favoring the Chiefs. Now, if you really want to know the political reasons why, it is political, why the Chiefs are so favored by the NFL, I'll tell you. I'd be glad to tell you if you want to know. But, the fact is it does exist. It was a close game. The Texans could have won it. C.J. Stroud played as well as he could, given how few weapons he has this year. He's had a lot of injuries. You can't count on Tank Dell. 2 years, 2 times he's been out for the playoffs. The Texans need to go get some more weapons for C.J. Stroud so they don't squander his amazing talents.
Real quick thought there on C.J. Stroud. I thought someone said earlier that Jaden Daniels is the first rookie quarterback to do something. But, C.J. has been to the playoffs as a rookie and then the second year. To advance to the divisional championship. Maybe you're saying that he's the first rookie to get that far.
Get to the conference championship, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
There we go. I was just trying to clarify that.
That's exceptional, but it's hard to tell how good the Chiefs actually are because there are so many calls. Literally, they've been handed a couple games this year. They had one doink or if it doinks in instead of doinking out, they lose that game. The Raiders game, they literally changed the call and you know, to give the game, take the game away from the Raiders and give it to the Chiefs. And it's just, or at least it was a tie, I think. And it's just really gotten to be ridiculous. And you know, my favorite thing was during the game, a play happened. I forget, there was interference or it was a face mask. And the play happens and it's over. And I'm like, what's taking so long? They didn't put the ball back and, you know, yada, and it goes on and on and on. And then like literally 2-3 minutes later, almost, they call a face mask. And everybody's like, well, obviously New York called the refs, which we know they're doing. New York and Vegas both have direct lines to that ref on the field, I'm sure, and told him to call the face mask. And it's like, they're like, oh, no, that they don't do that. That's against the rules. New York can't call down to the referee. Bullshit. Everybody saw it, right? So we're sick of the agendas. We're sick of the politicizing of our football. We're sick of it being as dirty as an election night in Pennsylvania and Detroit. We're done with it, okay? So I got a feeling, look, they better not cheat for the Chiefs this weekend. If the Chiefs win this game, it better be straight up with no controversial calls, because I think there's going to be a firestorm, if they pull this shit again on championship weekend, because now I think most of the country is going to be rooting for the Bills to go win the Super Bowl. Yeah. Bills wins would be fantastic for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, all that said, though, Mike, you did have the Chiefs on your parlay, didn't you?
I did to win, because I knew they would win. But I wasn't sure.
That's a different story. Our heart and our brain can be a little different from time to time. Ask anyone who's dated the wrong person. Your heart and your brain can be the wrong.
To beat the game.
Yeah.
So what about you, Jim? What did you take away from this? Is this kind of what you were expecting? Surprised that because there were a lot of Texans that came out afterward and they were interviewed and they said, yeah, you got to play perfect because you got to beat the Chiefs and the refs. There were a lot of not so thinly veiled comments about it, but you know, Chiefs do get the win.
Yeah, well, along with Mike, I had the Chiefs on the money line on my parlay also, but you know, it wasn't to be for me. After the Lions lost their game, I mean, my parlay ticket was dead. Yeah. The outlying stat on this game was that the Texans were 1-11 against the spread as a dog after winning a game as a dog, which that scenario was last week.
Yeah.
But, they've got to do something. There was an alleged hit that Mahomes took, where you could see in slow motion, you could see the two Texan players actually collided with each other, and Mahomes was laying on the ground on his back, and they barely touched him. I mean, and they called a flag on that.
The John Stockton of the NFL.
It was a what was it, a 15-yard penalty?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, real quick.
Down.
Real quick. Hold on first down in the penalty. David saying, I know this is football talk. Go Eagles. The President Trump just released the JFK, MLK, and RFK Jr.
He authorized their release. They haven't been released yet. And it's going to confirm my theory, ancient aliens and JFK, that JFK was actually killed because of what he was going to reveal about aliens. You will find it in that book. Go pick it up. You'll be smarter than everybody else on your block if you read it.
I'm on chapter 4 of that, by the way, Mike.
Okay, good.
But Jim, we were talking about how that hit. You're referencing that hit and what happened.
Yeah, it was that hit along with Mahomes' little move, you know, where he's running down the sideline and he acts like he's going to step out of bounds, but you know, he'll pick up 2-3 more yards, you know, before somebody shoves him out of bounds. And then he does the NBA flail as he's going out, you know.
Yeah, the John Stockton.
I mean,
they call it the LeBron flop now, but yeah, same difference.
Communication is 10% verbal, 90% nonverbal. Mm-hmm. And doing this, flying out of bounds, he's telling everybody he's acting.
Well, let me ask you, this is a good question and a good time to raise it. The NBA instituted a flop penalty. So they can blow the whistle and penalize you for pretending to be fouled when you didn't. It's weird because the reason LeBron James started doing it is because 6 foot. What was he? 6'8", 6'7"?
6'7".
6. Yeah.
Nobody other than LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal have ever been fouled and smacked in the face, elbowed in the face, punched in the head. Nobody has ever taken more shots with fewer penalties called than those two, Shaquille and LeBron. And LeBron eventually figured out, he's like, what the hell? So I have to sell it every time I get punched in the face, or else I'm never going to get a penalty. So then he started learning how to flop, and then he started flopping on more occasions. And it started turning into, come on, dude, stop this. It's like, well, if you would have called the game normally, it would have been hack a LeBron and send him to the free throw line like they did with Shaq. But kind of the refereeing, the bad reffing, the response was, he's so big and he's so strong. He's so much bigger and stronger and athletic than everybody else on the court. We're going to have to blow the whistle every single trip down the court.
Okay.
So we can't call it. So that turned into the flopping, and then that turned into the NBA saying, if you flop, you'll be penalized. Mm-hmm. Do we think that the NFL could institute an anti-flopping, this one would be an anti-faking an out of bounds, faking a slide to take yards off of the end of the play, and then maybe penalize you an extra 5, Mike?
Yeah, it sounds good in theory, but I don't think it'll pass, because in order for it to pass, the owners would have to vote on it. And
yeah,
I don't. The most egregious thing are the penalties that they call for holding on a pass receiver. A pass defender will run out and it's obvious holding, but he'll add a little sauce on it by throwing up his hands. How many times have you seen a defender throw up his hands and say, "Oh, I didn't touch him"? No, by throwing up your hands, you're telling the zebras, "I just committed a foul." You're drawing attention to yourself. Let it go. Just let it go.
Quit while you're ahead type of stuff. What about you, Mike? Do you think that there's a chance there? Because look, the Trevor Lawrence situation, he got blasted by somebody like, "Oh, you're suspended." Fine. But if you're doing that fake slide thing, you're bringing it on yourself. You know, it's not good for the investment into these quarterbacks. That they're trying to take these extra couple yards, but then it's leading to Trevor Lawrence getting his head cleaned off.
Look, what needs to happen is this, and you're supposedly not allowed to do this in football anymore, but somebody needs to say, a coach needs to say, we're playing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes this week. I just want Patrick Mahomes to know that I've told my guys, we don't care how many 15-yard penalties you get. If you have a clear shot on Patrick Mahomes, you take it and you go right through him and you do your best to knock him out of the game. We're not saying injure him. We're saying we're going to knock you out of the game. But you come right at us, Pat. You run like that, like a girl. You come. I mean, that's just what he needs. Somebody needs to be really macho and just say, if you come across that line of scrimmage, or you try to, run to the sideline and pull these tricks, our guys are going to blast you. Because I've seen videos where it was a Miami game last year, and I think it was even a playoff game, and 2 guys come right up to Mahomes. And they both stop and let him run by because they're afraid of the penalty. Well, somebody's going to have to say, screw the penalties. We're going to punish this guy. And they're going to have to blast him and knock him out for 3 or 4 games before it's going to stop. So a flopping rule is not going to stop it. What's going to stop it is some team just doesn't care and starts hitting the guy. Because that used to be how, the triple option quarterbacks in college, they went away because the defenses said, I don't care if he pitches the ball or not. Hit him anyway. It's legal to hit him. So they can, somebody's going to have the guts to do that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but once the quarterback leaves the tackle box, he's no longer a quarterback. He's a running back.
Yeah.
Rule.
Unless he slides. Unless he slides.
Somebody on defense has got to fall on the sword, go ahead and take him out. It's like Jack Lambert said. We talked about that the other day, Mike. Put a skirt on him.
Yeah.
I hate to bring up the Steelers to you, Brian, but
Yeah, Jack I can't Lambert, stand it. Thank you, though.
Yeah. I mean, fall on the sword, take the 15-yard penalty, take the ejection. If they knock Mahomes out of the game, what's the alternative?
Well, I'll tell you what the alternative is.
Carson Wentz?
I'll tell you the alternative. The Cleveland Browns knocked Patrick Mahomes out of that game with Baker Mayfield to go to the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
They let the Chiefs get away with a missile launch from the crown of the helmet, no hands out, just to go helmet to Hollywood Higgins' head. leading to. This was at the 1 yard line, diving in for a touchdown. They ignored the helmet to helmet. They didn't give a penalty. They didn't do targeting. They didn't do unnecessary roughness. They just let it happen. So instead of the Browns being there after that penalty at the 1 yard line to punch it in a less than 7-point game, they let the Chiefs win it. I mean, they were rigging this stuff back with Baker Mayfield. This isn't a new phenomenon that the Chiefs are letting it happen. That the refs are letting the Chiefs get away with stuff. But I will say I was watching Ronnie Lott was being interviewed. I was just caught this maybe an hour ago, right before the show launched. And he was talking about how you destroy the people coming across the middle. He goes, what you do this week sends a message to the players next week. They're watching the film. And then they showed alligator arms and people reaching out to dive for balls, and they think better of it. Yes, I'm fine with protecting quarterbacks. Quarterbacks sell tickets. I get it, but they are football players. They're allowed to get hit. I don't want any dirty. I don't want Minkah Fitzpatrick from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The thing is,
with an illegal hit, just blasting the knee of Nick Chubb the opposite direction in a dirty ass play. And I don't want someone exploding into somebody's head, helmet to helmet.
Yeah.
You know, hit him in the chest, wrap him up, and spin him down. That's how you tackle.
But
Yeah,
because
you don't want to.
you can't.
All right, hold on, one at a time. Jim first.
You don't want a Jack Tatum, Daryl Stingley situation. You know, going back to the Raiders and the Broncos.
Right.
By the way, Jim, you should give context on your T-shirt there. That's a Peter Sellers from the Dr. Strangelove film T-shirt. Mein Führer, I Can Walk. So yeah,
one of the 5 best movies ever made.
But you know, look, nobody took more hits to the head in the last 12, 15 years than Russell Wilson, and they didn't call it. So it's not that they protect the quarterbacks. They only protect the quarterbacks that the NFL tells them to protect. That's the problem. That's the issue. If they protected everybody equally, it would be a whole different story. I think there was a game, the Vikings lost to the Rams, a game that if the Vikings had won it, would have put the Seahawks in the playoffs, which should have been a joke and a miserable anyway. But you know, Sam Darnold got his head twisted around on a face mask, and nobody called it, even though I know the referees saw it, because I think the agenda that week, for whatever reason, was for the Rams to win the game. And, you know, New York didn't call down and say, hey, there was a face mask there like they did in the Chiefs game. So it's the inequity of who they're protecting as opposed to it being all across the spectrum, which it really isn't. So that's the stuff that's got to stop. It's the inequity. It's the non-righteousness of what's going on. So, you know,
Phil Johnson jumping in saying, I got to grow up watching Dick Buckeyes. I don't think he'd be allowed to touch anybody in today's game of flag football. Fair point. Yeah. I mean, remember all of those Sports Illustrated. If you sign up to a year of Sports Illustrated, we'll send you free greatest hits of the gridiron.
Yeah, greatest
they were decapitating people, and they were celebrating it, promoting it, advertising it, making money off of it. How far the game has changed since the 80s, early 90s.
Roger Goodell, when pussy-ass Roger Goodell came in, he said, I can't believe he actually said this, but he said, I want to get all the violence out of this game. And I'm like, that's why everybody watches it, is for the fucking violence. And by the way, the Daryl Stingley thing, that happened once, Jim, in 100 years of football, once or twice. It hasn't happened very often. So
but I do mean it. I like hard hits, but I don't want them to the head, and I don't want you diving at knees to blow somebody's legs out.
But they
I
have
just want hard hits in the sternum. I want hard football hits.
But Brian, they have to go for the legs now because you can't hit them up high anymore because they'll call you for a penalty. And see that I just think this whole thing needs to be reversed. We need to go back to the 2007 playbook when the game was perfect. Let these guys brutalize the opponent. If you're going to go over the middle, you're going to get hit. That's what makes it. That's what makes it a man's game. That's what makes it masculine. And look, there's a deeper agenda here too, Brian, that people don't understand, which is that football, American football, gets about 70% of the male audience to watch. Okay. So they're never going to grow beyond that 70% because the other 30% are guys that don't watch football. They're nerds. They're, not on our team, whatever you want to say, right? They're not going to watch. So they realize they have to, Goodell decided we have to start marketing to girls. And girls don't like it when a guy gets plastered in the middle of the field, and his face is all purple, and he's lying there knocked out. Ooh, look at him. His face is all purple. So they're trying to sell this game to girls. That's why every NFL show has some girl hosting it, or God, even now, Mina Kimes, please, God, no, don't make me listen to her, pretend like they know something about football. So they are marketing now to women because that's where the growth is, and that's why they're taking the football out of football, which is the last thing any of us real fans really want.
Well, let me throw a counterpoint to that though. With the women, they're hosting. I caught your comments, I think, on a Toxically Masculine Tuesday, but we didn't bring up the Joy Taylor thing on this show.
Oh God!
But I know you're not a fan of her. I am. But I think that's marketing to the men, Mike. I don't think she's spilling out of her wardrobe for the ladies. I think that's to keep the male viewers watching, if I were guessing.
Do the weather report, which is all she's qualified for. Nobody wants to sit there and listen to her pretend like she knows anything about football. Her brother, Jason Taylor, is a Hall of Famer, and she still comes up with some of the most dingbat reads on football that I've ever heard in my life. Unless you've played it and put on the pads and been brutalized on the football field, you don't know what you're talking about. And there are guys out there that played shit. I didn't even play high school football, Brian. I didn't even make it. I mean, once the guys got to high school, they were like all a lot bigger than me. I'm like, well, let's see. I've gone from being an end to a linebacker to a safety, and now everybody's still faster than me. I think I need to get out of this game before I get broken, right? So, it's like, no, fine, I'll tune in for that. And I don't have a problem with a cheerleader or a girl in a bikini giving me the weather forecast for the football game this weekend. But I want to listen to the dudes who know football talk about football. I learned more about football listening to Peyton and Eli and Bill Belichick on the Monday night Manning cast than I would learn from a million years of listening to Joy Taylor and Mina Kimes read off pre-prepared scripts that some man producer has written for them. It just, come on.
Well, I'll flip the script on one particular part, though. I mean, Mike, it's not like you and I have ever been politicians, but we cover politics every day. We don't have to be a politician to be covering it. But no, I don't know. I think you're right that they're definitely pushing it. They're pushing NFL flag football leagues. They're definitely selling the pink merchandise. And why not? I get it. But the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce forced down our throat thing, the whole Patrick Mahomes is the golden boy. I'm so over it on every level. And I'm done with the dynasties unless it's my franchise. And this one ain't. I'm rooting against the Chiefs, that's for sure. All right, let's switch gears here. Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills. Is it safe to say that we're all going to root for the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl? Is that just me?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Jim? No. Okay, we'll get to that later then. Let's talk about this game. 25-27. Man, this was a close one. Lamar, once again, fails to bring home a Super Bowl. He's in the running for MVP again, but the Buffalo Bills found a way to make this happen. Josh Allen did not have the most prolific passing game of his career by any stretch. Zero touchdowns passing, but he did rush for 2 of them. What do we take away from this one? Was this more Baltimore failing to get it done, or was this more the Bills going out and getting it? I'll reverse it since Mike and I talked so much that last segment. Jim, what about you? What was your takeaway on this one? Was this Ravens failure or the Bills conquering?
I think it was probably a little more Ravens failing. I mean, Mark Andrews. I mean, just can't.
That was rough.
That was Jackie Smith.
That was so rough.
If you're old enough to remember Jackie Smith dropping the pass for Dallas Cowboys in the end zone.
That was awful.
What about Scott Norwood wide right?
I
mean, that brings us right back to the Bills. One play to win it all, one ring to rule them all, and
laces out, man. Laces out.
Yeah, laces out. Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura.
That one to Mark. I mean, look, Mark Andrews is a badass. He is a fantastic football player. But look, this could happen to anybody. Anybody could swing and miss. You get into the Baseball Hall of Fame getting 3 hits out of 10. That's a 70% failure rate. These things do happen, but man, when it happens in a moment like that, it's painful. That sits with you for a long time, right?
Yeah. Well, this game bailed me out of my losing parlay. As I told Mike, I just came over the top and laid the correct amount on the Bills and got my money back less $8. So I was happy for the week as far as betting, but I couldn't see why the Bills were installed as a 1.5 point dog.
That was weird. I didn't expect that either.
I did not understand that. I mean, crunching the numbers, it just didn't make sense.
Jim, those numbers, let me ask you one other thing. How many points on average does the home team get an automatic swing? Overall.
Normally between 3 and 3.5 points.
3.5.
So
3.5.
If this were played on a neutral field, then Baltimore would have been installed as a
4-point favorite,
4.5, 5-point favorite, and it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
the Bills, but plus the fact that the going into this game, the Bills were 9-0 straight up at home.
Yeah.
So.
I don't understand.
It didn't make sense at all to me. I had Buffalo in this game, as did Mike, and like I said, it saved my bacon as far as the monetary part of the game was concerned, betting the game.
What about you, Mike? What did you think of this one? I mean, I hate the Ravens for Cleveland reasons. They stole my franchise in 1995. Don't forget, we had Nick Saban and Bill Belichick as coaches on our team. Ozzie Newsome, director of player, in the front office. God, what they stole from us. I will never forget.
God
we should have been the next dynasty.
Bless Art Modell.
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, so Mike, I have no love for Baltimore, but I do recognize Lamar has improved as a quarterback, as a throwing quarterback. I think I said on last show, he came into the league the last pick overall in the first round, 32.
Yeah.
He was an athlete playing quarterback. He came from Louisville, where I'm living now. But he's turned into a pretty good, accurate quarterback, dynamic with his feet, but also making some great passes. And Derrick Henry, they thought, oh, he's old, he's banged up, he's got nothing left in the tank. He had a great year.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't enough to get past the Bills this time. What did you make of this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember there was a Pro Bowl quarterback competition in 2020, 2021, and it was Russ versus Lamar. And, you had to throw at these targets 35, 40, 50 yards away. And Lamar hit, I think, 2 out of 10, and Russ was like 10 out of 10. And it's just the accuracy was in there. He's improved that dramatically. But the bottom line is, look, he shrinks in the big moments. You have to say that about Lamar. As much as he's improved, I don't think he deserved his MVP last year. He shrinks in the big moments. He doesn't do it in the playoffs. And that's why that's important. Yeah, sorry. That's why that's important. Yeah. So,
playoffs.
What are we talking about?
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Yeah.
Playoffs?
I just hope we can win a game. So yeah.
But I would say this, Mike. I would push back on that a little bit. I get that. Look. The results matter. The results do matter, but
he played bad. He played bad in a big crucial game in the playoffs. He had 2 bad interceptions. They cost his team the game. I don't know that he's ever going to win a Super Bowl. I really don't know if he'll be good enough to win. He's not Cam Newton. He's got way more heart than Cam Newton, but I just question whether I don't know if it's here or here, but there's something that's missing. It's now a trend you can't deny. Now, Peyton Manning had issues with this, they said. It was just that he wasn't on very good teams. Lamar's been on some pretty good teams.
But let me just counterpoint. Far be it from me to give any kudos to those dirty rat birds out there in Baltimore, Edgar Allan Poe. Look, he put the ball into Mark Andrews' hands perfectly to win the game. I think he stepped up under the most crucial moment in that game to get the win. He did everything he could have done to make the right play at the most crucial moment. I can't pin him shrinking. I can't pin the loss on him shrinking because he did the right thing. That should have been a completion in the end.
Right, and who knows who would have won the game if it went to overtime. But
and that's fair. That's fair. Right
there, Brian. What you saw there is the reason why Tom Brady illegally deflated footballs for cold weather games his entire career, for all games, but mostly for the cold weather games, because a football fully inflated under those conditions is rock hard and hard to catch. Even if your name, even if you're Andrews, even if the ball hits you right in the hands, it's harder to catch. That's why Tom Brady deflated footballs illegally for years and years and years and years, 8 years, because of moments like that. And it cost the Ravens. So maybe next year Lamar's going to have his equipment guy named the deflator go take a little needle and poke it into all the games in a cold weather late season game.
Well, hey, how about the NFL reconsiders if the temperature drops below a certain point? Maybe you can take an extra PSI out of it. I mean, if it's impossible to throw, why don't they just accommodate for that?
Yeah, the rule's the rule. I would really like to know what the Ravens football's inflation level was set at for that game. Was it the 12.5 PSI minimum, or was it higher than that? Because some guys don't care. Some guys just like, it's a ball's a ball. But other guys like Manning and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, they really, really think it makes a big difference. And you have to say they're correct. Anyway. So.
All right. Well, let's stay on the Bills and let's just talk about the 2 games happening this week. My God, gentlemen, we're down to two games.
There's only 3 games left, Brian. There's 3 football games left.
This is like I as much fun as this has been. It's like I see the end of the road. I'm going to start breaking out into a Boys to Men song. It's the end of the road here. Let's talk about Bills and Chiefs. Let me start with Jim to give us some of these. What do you call these? Do you call these tips? These are for entertainment purposes only. Trends. Yes. Historical points and counterpoints. Trends. Let's talk about the trends. What do we have here? What should we know?
Well, the Bills and the Chiefs, this number opened at Coast Casinos at Chiefs being favored by 1.5. And I checked it about an hour ago, and the number is still 1.5. The over-under in both of these games, by the way, is 47.5. The temperature at game time is supposed to be about 30 degrees, partly cloudy. I don't think there's any snow forecasted for Kansas City.
And that's decent weather, all things considered, this time of year.
Yeah,
especially for Kansas City. Correct.
Yeah.
The Bills are 12-5 straight up versus playoff teams. They are 12-7 against the spread in 2024.
What's that?
The Chiefs are 4-8 against the spread.
Don't talk about
2004
playoffs.
In the last 12
you kidding
games.
me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
We can't. I'm sorry, Jim. Can you repeat that last part one more time? We're
Which
children.
one?
We are children over here.
We're kids. Yeah, we're children. Anyway, go ahead, Jim. There you go. All right. So
the Chiefs are 4-8 against the spread in 2024, the last 12 games. Patrick Mahomes is 27-9-1 straight up as a favorite of 3 or fewer points or as an underdog.
Wow. That's a trend.
It's a big number. It's 3-1. Chiefs are 21-8 straight up when favored by less than 3 points. Just the history of this game, November 17th of 2024, these 2 teams played together. The Chiefs were at the Bills. The score was 21-30 Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Just an interesting note, there are 43 members of the Kansas City Chiefs that have conference playoff experience in this game.
That's a big deal.
43.
Wow.
On the other side of the ball, the Bills only have 14 players that have conference playoff experience. So
that
a
might
little
mean
bit more experience on the end on the side of the Chiefs. The Bills are 0-7 straight up in conference playoffs the last 30 years.
I'm sorry, 0. Say that one more time.
0-7 straight up in conference playoff games the last 30 years.
Yeah.
That's the game right before the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, that 0-7 is a massive marker of crumbling under the pressure.
Yes.
Okay, what about the Redskins-Eagles game?
Redskins-Eagles game, the number is still 6.5. I believe this game opened at 5.5 and abruptly went to 6.5 on Tuesday.
Can I press pause there and ask you a little bit of clarification on who sets the lines and what it means? So when the line is set, it's not necessarily because that's what they think the outcome will be. They're just trying to find the number that will elicit the most number of gamblers to gamble on each side. Am I thinking of it properly there? Am I defining it better?
Yes, you are. You're thinking of it properly because on a straight bet, normally the payout would be 11 to 10. So in other words, you would have to lay $110 to win 100. So mathematically and theoretically, the sports books want equal amounts of bets on either side. That's why they adjust the point spread either up or down during the week prior to the game. And that's to solicit. So in other words, if the points would go up to 7, which would be a full touchdown on the Eagles, they are trying to elicit more money to come in on the Redskins during that game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they want even money because if the number hits on say it, obviously it's not going to hit on 6.5, but if the number were to go to 7 and the number hits on the 7, they're going to get the vigorish, which is the juice, which would be the 11 to 10 on that number. So yes, to answer your question, that would be correct.
Okay.
Okay, so Eagles are 12-7 against the spread in 2024. Redskins are 13-6 against the spread in 2024. What do you think about those two numbers?
They're pretty even. I mean, if you look at it, 12-7 against the spread, as far as the Eagles are concerned, and you've got one more game difference with the Redskins as far as point spread. I think I think probably the most interesting number in this is this is a division game, which rarely happens. I mean, you've got the Eagles playing the Redskins in the conference championship game.
That is
they're
unusual.
from the same division. Yeah. They're very familiar with each other. Mm-hmm. November 14th, 2024 is when they first played this year. It was Redskins 18, Eagles 26, which was a home game for the Eagles. And then on December 22nd, which was a couple of weeks ago, it was Eagles 33, Redskins 36. So the Redskins lost the first game and they won the second game. Interesting fact here. I think if you look back on the schedule, the last time the Eagles had a road game, I think was December 6th, was the last time they played a road game.
Wow. Okay.
Which is pretty significant. The first week in December.
And so they're still at home. They're still hosting.
They're still at home, and they have been at home ever since week 1 or the first week in December. Dogs of 6 or more points are 44-36 against the spread. Rookie quarterbacks on the road are 7-17 straight up in the playoffs. But last week.
What's that?
Last week.
Hold on. I'm so glad
playoffs?
It's not just.
You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win again.
I'm so glad it's not just me.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, it makes me so happy. All right.
But Jaden Daniels pumped that number up last week by beating the Lions.
No.
Yeah.
Because last week that number was 7-16 straight up. Teams, this is the stat that scares the hell out of me in this game. Teams that play the Lions the week prior, which the Redskins did, are 4-9 straight up. But they are 1-12 against the spread the next week.
Yeah.
And that was a tough game they played up in Detroit.
Yeah.
That scares me in this game as far as betting it. That number right there.
Let me ask though, in that game, we were talking about the injuries to the Lions. Do we know, did the Redskins take a bunch of injuries in that game? Either way, like the point being they get worn out by the end of 4 quarters, but do we know, are they missing anybody specific, or did they take any direct hits?
Not that I recall. I'm going to look up the injury report.
I don't show anybody injured in that game, Brian.
Okay. All right. But official injury or not, it takes a lot out of you to battle the Lions.
Right.
Yeah. We have 3 guys who didn't practice. Sam Cosmi, the starting guard. Clellan Ferrell was limited. He's a defensive tackle. Defensive tackle Deron Payne didn't practice. This is a finger knee thing. Bobby Wagner did not practice, but everybody else was either limited or full. So I think you got to watch the interior defensive line with Ferrell and Payne being the most concerned there. Zach Ertz practice. So yeah, it's basically some linemen did not practice. Okay. So we shall see, but it is Thursday. There's a couple more days. So
in regular season games, historically with the NFC East, between the Cowboys, the Redskins, and the Eagles, usually the point spread is between 3 and 3.5.
Yeah, it's tight. Just like in the AFC North, it's tight usually.
I think this number is probably artificially inflated.
What is the number again? I'm sorry.
6.5. 6.5 in favor of the Eagles.
Just to artificially inflated to get the early money, get it flowing.
Yeah, this is an hour and a half bus trip, between up I-95 between Washington D.C. and Philadelphia. I mean,
I wish I had that. I logged 9.5 hour drives in and out of DC this week. It's a lot of driving, folks. Yeah, a lot of driving. But all right.
As far as betting the money line,
Eagles fly.
I think the Eagles will win the game.
Okay.
But if you're interested in betting the game,
you'll take the points.
They need to bring back this hat too.
Yeah, the Redskins hat. Absolutely.
Can we get my Cleveland Indians back too? Can we just undo like an executive order? Can we just sign an executive order bringing our teams back?
Was that Chief Wahoo?
Yes.
The official
logo. By the way, for the people that aren't aware, the Indians had the first Native American player to play on their team, and I think they had another or two, but it was Luis Sockalexis. And after playing on the team for a while, the other sports writers from other cities started joking. I think we were called the Spiders at the time. And instead of calling us by our team name, they're like, oh, we're playing the Cleveland Indians. And they got Indians on their team, we're the Indians. And then eventually the Cleveland team and the sports writers go, that's a cool name. Like the Boston Braves were a thing. There were a lot of Native American names being used. You go, let's just call ourselves the Indians. Let's switch it. And we went to the Cleveland Indians. So the Indians, by the way, and I'll wrap this baseball part up quick, but the Cleveland Indians, it wasn't meant as a slur. It was like we broke that barrier. Everyone else started calling us that anyway. And it's kind of like how the N-word turned into, that word just means dude to us now. What's up, dude? Hey, my dude. Hey, dude. Dude, please. It's our word now. We are the Cleveland Indians. Take that. And so the Indians, by the way, had the first black manager in American League. That was Frank Robinson in the 70s. The Cleveland Indians had the first black player in the American League, Larry Doby. The Cleveland Indians have broken barrier after barrier, only for a woke owner to get rid of our team name and erase all of that interesting, rich history. It's terrible. Guardians are as lame as the Commanders. Bring back some flavor.
That's the key word there, Brian, is history. They don't teach it anymore.
why are we whitewashing and getting rid of these interesting by the way,
No
Ohio
offense.
State had to beat the Fighting Irish. You want to talk about a goofy, antiquated slur of a nickname? Why is nobody going after those drunken Irish? They're fighting. They be fighting.
Yeah,
But that's okay, but my team's not. Anyway,
it's like the end of Blazing Saddles, you know. And again, we have no free speech on Twitter X or anywhere else until I can type this into a tweet. And there's
dump button. Where's the dump button?
At the end
dump button?
The guy goes, "All right, we'll take the dudes and the chinks, but we don't want the Irish."
We won't take the Irish.
It's a hilarious moment, and we should really get back to that place in America where we can talk like that.
That is an interesting analogy where it's like you take that word, that's our word now. It just means dude. It's like the Indians were being laughed at, like, oh, we're gonna go play the Cleveland Indians. Fuck it, we'll be the Indians. We're the Cleveland Indians. We'll honor this because this is cool. And
well, I'm never gonna not call them the Redskins. So
Where are the white women at?
Yeah, where are the white women at?
I need to go back and watch that. All these clips keep popping up, and I'm seeing it in like a minute here, 2 minutes there. I need to just sit down and watch it from front to back.
And the thing is, you can't watch it on television because literally every other word is beeped out. It's ludicrous. It's like, why even bother? Okay, so I bet.
I was just saying, Jim just picked the Eagles, right? You picked the Eagles.
Eagles to win the game, yeah. But if you're going to lay 6.5, hail to the
You're taking them. All right, let me do this. Let me pop this up. This is my betting from last week. I went 2-2. I'm 152 and 130 on the season, which, you know, seems okay. But trust me, that came from a much worse spot than it landed. I'm happy to be up by 22 on the year. Of course, Mike is going to show. Mike is the one you kind of look at it. You cheat off of his test when you're doing a little pop quiz. You look over at Mike's, not mine. But last week I picked Houston in an upset. I thought Kansas City was finally going to be due to shit the bed and let some of that karma catch up to them because they haven't played great and they've gotten lucky a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Houston lost that one. I lost that. I did pick Detroit to win that game. I lost that. However, I did pick the Eagles over the Rams and the Bills over Baltimore. So not all was lost. Now moving into the conference championships, Buffalo at Kansas City. Man, I would not be surprised to see the Chiefs win a Super Bowl again, despite all of my personal misgivings. And for that reason, I'm still picking Buffalo. I do think they're a better team. And I hope that karma from everybody except Kansas City cheering for that team, I just hope it catches up. I'm going for the Bills. Wide right, Scott Norwood. Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. That's what Bills stands for. Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. I'd love to see him win. I think they are the better team. I'm picking Buffalo. Washington at Philadelphia. Look, we were talking about the doink, getting lucky, a doink kick going in. You're like, oh my gosh, another one. You know, look, let's not forget Washington took a doink kick to take out Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers very recently.
Yeah.
So they've had their share of close calls. I think the pedigree of the Eagles is there. Even though Jalen Hurts and that passing offense is not quite clicking, just, you know, I understand it was snowing last week, so we can take a little bit of that out. But when you have Saquon, you don't have to pass for 350 yards a game. So I'm predicting a Eagles-Bills Super Bowl coming up on my side. Mike Bara, what about you, sir? Actually, while you pull up your screen, let me ask Jim. Let me ask you about the NFC. Who are you picking in a straight up money line NFC matchup? AFC matchup. I meant
AFC.
Yes, sir. You're picking the Eagles straight up. You're taking the Redskins with the points, and then
just
in
a little
AFC,
caveat on the Eagles. Also, I read something today. Jalen Hurts' left knee is still tweaked.
Oh,
he has not practiced this week.
Oh, why didn't you tell me that before I made my prediction?
No mulligans, too late.
Nothing's carved in stone, Brian. You can change it.
Yeah,
but you're betting the game straight up.
We won't remember.
I would still stay with the Eagles straight up, but as far as the points are concerned, the Redskins is the play.
Who is the backup again? Not Carson Wentz. Eagles backup?
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Oh, Kenny Pickett.
Okay. I'm still going Eagles. God, why am I still picking Eagles? But I'm playing for fun. Let's be fair. If I were putting money on it, that might.
Yeah. If Hurts gets knocked out, forget it.
I mean, his name is literally Hurts. Is that a sign?
It is Hurts. All right. Last week.
Show us what you did last week.
Well, last week I was 2-2. I got the 2 of the games right, just like everybody else. I was 2-2 in my picks. Fortunately, I won my parlay because I picked the Chiefs straight up, and I took the point spread with the Rams and got the 6 under the 6.5. So I got the Rams Eagles wrong, and I got the Redskins Lions wrong. We all did, but I got myself the Bills, the Chiefs, and the point spread with the Rams. 2-2 last week, 189 and 93 for the year. That's really pretty good. So now we come to the conference championship game. Look, I don't care who you're playing, where you're playing, you're going to give me Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and the points. I'm going to take them. I think they're going to win the game. I'm worried about the one stat that Jim had about, I forget what it was, but look, I'm going to stick with my convictions. I'm going to take the points. I bet the Bills in a parlay with the Redskins. I'm taking the Redskins over the Eagles. I know the Eagles have the best defense in the NFL. I think great quarterbacks beat great defenses. I suspect under decent weather conditions that Jaden Daniels is going to be a little too much for the Eagles. I know the Eagles have the great defense. They have Saquon. They have Jalen Hurts who can run. But I'm going to take both the road games. That hasn't happened in a long time in the NFL, but it's just what my gut's telling me. We'll see if my gut is any good or not. I think Daniels is so phenomenal that there's like an irresistible quality about it. And I don't think the Eagles are an immovable force. So I do think for the second straight week, I'm picking against the Eagles. And that would be a Super Bowl. Really
bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if that works out for you.
All right, there we go. So that's what I got. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, that is going to basically wrap up the show. Any final points, Jim?
Yeah, I'm reading David's message here. He says, I know that this is a football talk and so on and so forth, but I'd like to give a shameless plug. Here it is.
And you're on
Ancient Aliens and JFK. David, you need to read this book.
Yep. And
Mike is the author of that book. He's an ancient alien guy. You've been on that program plenty of times.
Many times. I have that specific theory about the Kennedy assassination, and I do believe that we're going to get a lot of confirmations on my specific theory as to how he was killed. And it wasn't the driver. That's his wrist. It wasn't some guy in the storm drain. It was J.D. Tippett on the grassy knoll and Lee Harvey Oswald in the 6th floor window of the Texas School Book Depository, hired by the CIA, directed by MJ-12 with the full knowledge of Lyndon Baines Johnson and Congressman Albert Thomas. That's what I'm going with. That's my prediction. I'm bold. I'm all about that.
And J.D. Tippett was a member of the Dallas
Police Force. Yes. And we have a picture of him on the grassy knoll in his uniform without a hat, and we can see that it's him. Yeah. And Theodore, I can walk. So anyway, yeah, thanks, Jim. That's important stuff. So
one more point on that. I played this video a second ago on the Agree to Disagree show. I'll promote the show, but let me show you this clip from Pompeo. Since we're talking about it, and it is breaking news, and for the love of God, if you can't talk about finally getting to the bottom of who killed our president, I don't know.
I don't think they know. See, that's the problem is I don't think the government actually knows or came to a conclusion, but we'll see what comes out.
That's fair. I'll give you that. Let me play you this little clip from Pompeo talking to Stossel. Since we're talking, I think it'll speak for itself. I think I'm roughly in the spot where he gets super weird and makes a real strange non sequitur.
We've got bigger problems.
Okay, that's
names,
right here.
Things that happened 60 years ago that are still important to keep in the vault. There are lots of things that happened that long ago that still are appropriate not to release. Think of names and addresses and families. And by the way, there's also no value in them. These don't hold the dark secrets that everybody wants to just hold up as the bogeyman. I saw the UFO files too. We've got bigger problems. In America, lots of bigger problems. Just because something is kept secret, why not go to the darkest corners? But
why in the same sentence did he bring up UFOs when talking about Kennedy? Were you aware of that video, Mike?
I was not, and it's very interesting. I will retweet that. What account is that from? Is that from you?
Bro, just go to the New American Media and scroll down at American_media_.
Yeah.
The cutting edge of all the cool shit happening. But yeah, that was a Stossel clip with Mike Pompeo. Why did he bring up UFOs right there?
Because
what a strange why did that end up in the second part of that
we
sentence?
Really don't have any bigger question than that, given the fact that the current president came within a fraction of an inch of being murdered in a conspiracy 6 months ago. So no, we don't have any bigger issues than that.
Fair enough. Well, man, that was a synchronistic moment if I've ever heard of one. Why in the heck did those converge today? But look, that's why you follow the other shows that Mike does. Mike, tell us about your other shows. You do Toxically Masculine Tuesday on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on your account.
I do that. I do Real News Live with Mike and Jen Mondays and Wednesdays. That's a financial show primarily at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm interviewing the XRP crypto financial expert Mel Carmine. So tune in for that on all the usual channels. MikeBara.blogspot.com is where you can get all the links to that stuff, or go to Real News Live with Mike and Jen on Rumble, or go to Mike Bara 2, Mike Bara 3, or Mike Bara 333 on YouTube. I'm still barely alive, barely avoiding the censorship acts on those channels. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck with that, of course. And yes, Mike does his show tomorrow at 1 o'clock. He and I talk because we do share the studio, and my show will be wrapped by 12 or 12:30 at the latest. But we've started a new TNAM AM show. So in the morning, we kind of unpack and sift through social media, find out what's going on. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do the Agree to Disagree show, often with Blake Wally. And yeah, we hope you follow us in all the platforms, Rumble, YouTube, the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, and the New American Media, the Agree to Disagree show, all of those things, and the TNAM AM show. Yeah, lots of videos will be released. We'll be putting some stuff out there, sports content, all sorts of things. Thank you so much for joining us, finding us, etc. Any other final words that we didn't get to, gentlemen?
No, let's just go play some football and have a good weekend.
Let's do that. Appreciate you all. Talk to